Hello everyone and welcome back to another deck guide. We're taking a break from Genesis this week to do some stupid combo shenanigans with Goblin Zombies. Right off the bat, I want to make it clear that this one's not hyper competitive. You can probably see that by looking at the list. We're 60 cards and play basically no non-engines, save for the 9-ish copies of MST that come along with using Typhoon as an engine. That said, we do have a bit of play going second still, since Typhoon and Goblins are both pretty good at breaking a board in engine. And the payoff for playing no non-engine is a wackadoo 12 disruption end board off of one card. So if playing a silly zombie combo deck with a million disruption end board sounds fun to you, then let's get started. Before we get into the new cards, we have to talk about why the deck works in the first place, and that's the boy Goblin Zombie himself. You see, Goblin Zombie is both a goblin and a zombie. Wild, I know. His only effect that matters is if he is sent from the field to the graveyard, you add a low defense zombie from deck to hand. This is not once per turn. However, it's a bit harder to use than most zombie support since he has to be sent from field, not just from anywhere. The trick here is that Goblin Biker's effects mostly name goblin monsters, not specifically Goblin Biker monsters. So any of our ways to search or summon Doug in the gang can also be used to search and summon Zombie, which can then be used as link material, which gets us a search. I'm playing 2 because we can often search and summon multiple throughout the combo, but while we don't mind opening one, it's not an actual starter. Speaking of which, we have 31 card starters of various flavors. Not all of them do the full 12 disruption thing alone, but thankfully very few of them take a normal summon, so we can often piece together a scary ass end board one way or another through a couple of hand traps. Case in point, the king himself. The new Pumpking support revolves around Call of the Haunted and reviving pieces on the opponent's turn for disruptions. This guy is core to the game plan here. You can reveal him in hand, set a live Call of the Haunted from deck, then discard a card, which is normally the king himself. That's because you can use that call to summon him from grave, which triggers his other ability to summon a level 6 zombie from your deck. That locks you from specifically hand and grave for the rest of turn, which is pretty easy to play around, but either way you just do this zombo combo as the last part of your turn, so eh. Next up is Stare of the Snakehair, which can discard to add Call of the Haunted or a spell trap that mentions it. One of those happens to be a starter, which makes Snakehair one as well. She also, on special summon, can turn off an opponent's monster, making it unable to attack, negating its effects, and making it unable to be used as material. And that's permanent. She's consistency and one of our strongest disruptions, so duh, we play her at 3. Your normal search off of Snakehair is Ectoplasmic Fortification. You can use this spell to add a level 6 zombie or our field spell from deck to hand, but only if you have no monsters on board. That's kind of frustrating because this deck in this package could be a lot more streamlined if you could search Snakehair, search this, and use it mid-combo, but alas. Don't fret though, it's not dead on turn 3 because you can also use it to pump your zombies and draw a card for every Call of the Haunted you have face-up on board. Call of the Forgotten is our field spell, setting 3 calls from deck or grave when you activate it, but it locks you into only zombies or monsters from grave until the end of your opponent's turn. Basically, we just do this at the end of our turn, and then the lock's more or less irrelevant. It's also a disruption, since if you activate Call, you can send an opponent's monster to grave once per turn. I play 2 because it's not a starter, but you can use it again turn 3 to set any calls that ended up in your graveyard to help you grind it out. One Vortex of Time is a silly but powerful alternative in case you get an extra search at some point in your combo, like you have a piece that you would normally search but you don't need to this time. This quick play lets you turn your opponent's normal quick play spell or monster effect into a bad time for someone. They flip a coin, and if they get a heads, we banish one monster we control. But oh, if they get a tails, they banish all monsters they control. Either way, the initial effect is quote-unquote negated, and even if we have to banish a guy, we don't really care. Sometimes you also just win on the spot. Call summons from grave, it's so simple, but the entire deck is built around it. Mizuki also summons from grave, but specifically by banishing itself to summon a zombie. Unizombie is what we're always hoping to normal summon, and is a starter for specifically the zombie side of things. They let you modulate levels by discarding cards or sending a zombie from deck to grave, and also enable synchro plays by being a tuner. Chang'Xi is Pumpkin's best friend. She's a level 6 zombie, so you can summon her off of the king, but can also just foolish a zombie from deck once per turn, and if banished, summons herself back out. Blow Up Bloom turns any foolish into Pumpkin combo, since if it's sent to the grave, you can banish it to add a high-level zombie to hand, aka Pumpkin himself, but this is the hardest lock in the deck and puts you on only zombies for the rest of the turn, so make sure you sequence it correctly. Gozuki is another foolish on a body, so it's another, albeit worse, starter, but when sent to grave you can banish another zombie to summon one from hand. The thing about zombies is they can struggle to get themselves out of the hand. Very few special summon or discard themselves, which makes it crucial to have ways like Gozuki to move them around. Another card that does this is one Volcarion, which can special summon itself from hand as long as you have a zombie on board, and can return itself from field to the hand to summon a zombie from your hand. It's a funky effect, but letting you put a Unizombie on board even if you had to normal summon earlier is not to be underestimated, especially since every one of your generic zombies can be searched off of the Goblin. Speaking of goblins, the Bikers are up next. Douglas can special summon himself from hand by detaching an XZ material from the field, and searches a spell trap on summon. Mean Merciless can summon a goblin from hand when she's normal or specialed, and can detach a material to summon back from grave. Note, she summons a goblin from hand, not a Goblin Biker. One Boommot can detach to summon itself from hand or grave as a quick effect to act as an extender or enable goblin-based disruptions. One Clattersploder summons a goblin from grave on summon and can detach to summon itself out on the opponent's turn only. Gone Wild is a 6, but you can normal it if you have no monsters or only goblins. Then on summon, you can summon a level 4 or below goblin from deck. Lastly, if sent to grave, you can attach an opponent's card to one of your goblin XZs on field. The spells here are where it gets really cool. Grand Entrance is a rota for goblins that lets you detach a material from the field to summon a goblin from hand as well. It can also detach a material to add a goblin from grave back to hand by banishing itself from grave. This is normally the card you're using to get the zombie train rolling by searching and summoning goblin zombies straight out. But another way we can do that is with Grand Breakout. This is a quick play and our premier extender. It tributes any monster to summon any goblin from deck, which lets you dodge targeted disruption while getting more relevant material along the way. It can also banish from grave to drop the opponent's attack a bunch if you have a goblin XZs. It doesn't come up that often in this particular deck. Last up, one Grand Bash turns Doug and Wild into starters and can sort of work as an extender. It's a continuous spell that makes all of your goblins bigger and lets you normal summon an extra goblin once per turn. It can also modulate the level of your gobs to bring down Wild to a 3 most importantly. These guys multiply like rabbits, but unfortunately they're all either bricks or pretty bad starters, which along with the zombie bricks is why I think you definitely play this deck at 60. Our much better starters are, well, any card that puts 2 level 3 bodies on board without a normal summon. Terratop's a classic for that, summoning itself from hand if you control no monsters, then searching Takatomborg, who can special summon from hand if you control a wind, like the Terratop, bam, 2 level 3s. Lastly, we're playing the Typhoon engine because it's 9 more Terratops effectively. They special from hand if you have MST in grave or the opponent has no back row. That means going first they always special summon, and going second we have 9 MSTs to hopefully turn them on. Eldum searches a monster or MST on summon, which is Swen, who searches a spell or MST on summon, which is Chant, which searches a monster or MST, which is Megala, which doesn't do anything because it just special summons itself out as a level 3 body. We don't use the effect because it would windlock us, and we can't be windlocked in this deck. Basically, this all means that Eldum and Swen represent 3 bodies, and Chant itself represents 2. Megala alone can be an extender, but it's kind of a bad one. Then we've got Vision, which lets you draw 2, then discard 1. The discard has to be a quick play or a Typhoon card, so don't just fire it off willy-nilly, but it also searches MST, and MST itself just pops back row and turns on our Typhoon bodies. Then lastly, we're playing the full armored package in the sideboard, and you need full armored XZ to make that work. This trap lets you perform an XZ summon on the opponent's turn, then banishes itself from grave to equip an XZ from field or grave to a different XZ to make it big and protect it from destruction once. Real quick on the sideboard, there's two monsters that came out with the Pumpkin stuff that I'm not playing. Army summons from hand or grave if you have Call of the Haunted on board, and when sent to grave can set a call from the grave. It's pretty lackluster, but you play it as a mediocre extender in the full Pumpkin deck. We don't want or need it here. Mammoth is annoying because its only purpose is to get foolished, then when you summon it back, for your trouble, all you get is one destroy. Considering it's a brick and a half, we make plenty of disruptions on our own. I'll pass. These two are good extra deck monsters that I wish we could fit, but we just can't. Red Eye Zombie Dragonlord is an extra Call of the Haunted that can summon itself back from grave, and we can make it off of Unizombie in a 6, which isn't hard. We just don't have the space, y'all. Wallow is another rank 6 option that can make your guys big, disrupt the opponent's graveyard, and maybe get you some value. I've debated taking out the full armored package here, and if you decide to go that route, I would put these two in instead. In the extra deck, we have an SP to banish things. The kicker here is that we need any generic Link 2 to go through as part of the combo. An SP is a disruption we can call back on the opponent's turn after linking up past her. Vampire Sucker takes 2 zombies, unfortunately. Most of the zombie links do, but she lets you tribute opponent's monsters for your zombies, which is pretty whatever, but you also just draw a free card as part of your Zombos combos. Fascinator helps you link climb going second by letting you summon something from your opponent's grave, a la the Charmers, but this one zombie locks you. She can also tribute herself or a Vampire Sucker to steal an opponent's monster until end phase, making her a very dangerous board-breaking presence going second. Yukiona the Icicle Mayakashi is a Link 3 that lets you negate an opponent's monster on summon permanently, which again helps us go second, but more importantly, when she's in grave, you can banish as a quick effect to summon out a zombie synchro, which we have one important target for that. Unicorn is here because we need a Fiend to make a Bawaku, and a 3 lines up neatly with our combos, but you can also discard a zombie to spin an opponent's card back to deck, which means, yes, this helps break boards. A Bawaku needs a Fiend, but lets us discard zombies to destroy cards and reborn our monsters. You may notice that all of those are things we really want to do, and as a bonus we get to filter a whopping 7 cards every turn off of our best combo. Last up for links, we have another Yukiona, and one of my personal favorite cards. Yuki negates the effects of any of the opponent's banished monsters, so she just hoses Malice alone, which is pretty funny. But more importantly, if a monster is summoned from the graveyard, or a monster effect activates in the graveyard, then you can target a monster to permanently negate and make its attack 0. You can do this twice per turn. Call of the Haunted alone makes this into 2 permanent negates per turn, but we have a million other ways to summon stuff back as well. It wouldn't be a Goblin deck without our big-ass Gabonga. This generic rank 3 searches any Goblin monster on summon, normally dug to summon to get a spell to get more bodies, but it doesn't stop there. Whenever a material is detached from anywhere on the field, you can use him to suck up an opponent's monster to help break a board, or as an end board piece of your own. Lastly, on end phase, you can attach a Goblin to him from the deck, which is normally Gone Wild for the extra suck, or Boom Mock for the quick detach. Fortress is part of the Armored Xyz package. You can slap him over the Gabonga to detach a material to search the trap itself. Pumpkin also makes an extra deck appearance as the only card we double up on. This guy takes 2 level 6 zombies and makes your zombies untargetable as long as you have a face-up Call of the Haunted on board. Good start, but even better, on summon you can search any card in his own archetype, which is normally the field spell to get all those juicy calls online. Lastly, he can detach a material to bounce up to 2 cards on the field at ignition speed. While yes, that can help break a board, it also lets you recycle the Call of the Haunted that you use as part of the Pumpking Combo, and we play 2 of these guys to bounce our calls on turn 3 to use them again if we need to. Undying Legion is our other new archetypal Xyz, and we can slap it over a rank 6 zombie Xyz like the Pumpkin to turn it into a disruption. During the opponent's main phase, you can detach materials to attach an attack position monster or any monster in their grave to the Legion. It's simple, but it's free, so might as well. Lancer is the last part of our Armored Xyz package, since you can slap it over the Fortress, then when it becomes equipped, it can suck up any opponent's monster. Basically, we search the trap, make this guy, then use the trap on the opponent's turn to turn our Call of the Haunted Bodies into another Pumpkin on the opponent's turn. Then we get the search from that, and also we can banish the trap from the grave to equip something to the Lancer for the suck. We play a Zeus to threaten a board wipe off of Gabanga, and lastly, Felgrand is our one synchro, which can banish a monster from field or grave on special summon. That means we can make it, link it off, then use Yuki 3 to summon it back on the opponent's turn for a banish, then while it's on the field and a monster is summoned from the grave, oh no, how would we ever do that, you can negate a monster on field until end of turn. Basically, our end board can take out as many monsters as we need to, as many times as needed, in any way needed. Let's go see how that works in some combos. So first up, in case you are unfamiliar with what the new Pumpkin stuff is trying to do, we're going to go through that combo to start. So we're starting with Snakehair here, but it changes very little based on which of the 3 different starters you open. We're just going to use Snakehair to go get Ectoplasmic Fortification, use that to go get Pumpkin. Pumpkin sets Call of the Haunted, discards himself, Call summons back the Pumpkin. Pumpkin summons Changshi from the deck. Changshi gets a Foolish, and what you send here is always going to depend on what your hand looks like. Unfortunately here, because we have no hand, we don't have anything we can really do with it. We send a Mizuki for follow-up for next turn, before overlaying for extra deck Pumpkin. That gets us Call of the Forgotten. We can bounce our Call of the Haunted so that we can reuse it, and then activate the Call of the Forgotten to set 2 other Call of the Haunteds, then rank up our Pumpkin into the Undying Legion. So that's going to give us 3 disruptions and a whole lot of follow-up, and while it doesn't look like a lot, this is actually like full board. This is 5 bodies right here. So we're going to actually go through and see how these disruptions play out, just in case you haven't. So we go to the opponent's turn, and all of our Call of the Haunteds are immediately live. So here we can, when the opponent does anything, we can summon back Snakehair as our first biggest disruption, because that's going to turn off their monster. Then that's also going to trigger Call of the Forgotten, which allows us to send their monster, and at any point we can also use the Undying Legion to suck their monster. We can also then use the other Call of the Haunteds, because that's our 3 disruptions on this board, to summon back some follow-up. So we're going to summon back Pumpkin and Pumpkin. So the main deck Pumpkin will trigger to summon a level 6, which if you are playing Mammoth, which is a card I vehemently dislike, but if you're playing it, you can summon that out for an extra disruption. But also, extra deck Pumpkin on summon searches a card, not on Xyz summon, so you can get follow-up here. So here, I grab the Ectoplasmic Fortification because that gives us follow-up for next turn, and I just summon out another Snakehair for an extra body. So this gives us a full board of like bodies to clog up the board. We are going to draw 3 on our next turn. All of our stuff will get bigger when we do that. It was 3 disruptions along the way, and we still have this Mizuki that we didn't even use. So that's how the basic Pumpkin combo works. Cool? Cool. So now for a slightly more complicated combo. This one is going to be off of Eldum or Swen, which are our best starters. In general, while we have 31 card starters, the combo is going to vary drastically based on what you have in hand. That's just kind of the nature of Zombies. Zombies is more of a freestyle deck than a 1-card combo deck. But, oh, do we still have 1-card combos. So let's get started. We're going to special Eldum out because the opponent has no back row. That lets us get Swen. Then we can special summon Swen, go get Chant. We can activate Chant to go get Megala, then overlay our 2/3s on board for the big ass Gabanga, who can get us Douglas, who can special summon himself out by detaching a material, and go get us Grand Entrance. We can activate Grand Entrance to go get the Goblin Zombie, detach the other material, special summon out the Goblin Zombie. We can special summon out the Megala, use 2 of our Goblins to go into SP Little Knight, and then upgrade our Gabanga into Xyz Armored Fortress, who can go get us our Trap, and then we can overlay the Dark Knight Lancer over that one. Now keep in mind here, the whole idea behind this deck is that on the opponent's turn, we are summoning disruptions from our grave to mess with them. So it does not matter if we keep our disruptions on board because we have access to them either way. So we're going to link off the SP Little Knight into a Nightmare Unicorn here, along with the Goblin Zombie, who is going to trigger to go get us Unizombie because we haven't normal summoned yet. So we can normal summon the Unizombie and send a Mizuki to grave, use that to bring back Goblin Zombie. Then we've got a level 4 and a level 4 tuner, so we can synchro those into Felgrand. Same thing, we're just going to put it in grave to summon back next turn. That's going to trigger Goblin Zombie for the second time. Keep track, it's pretty funny how many times we use this card. That's going to go get us Glow Up Bloom, and then we can use Lancer and Unicorn to go into a Bawaku. A Bawaku discards the Glow Up Bloom to summon back Goblin Zombie for the third time. Glow Up Bloom's going to trigger, banish itself to go get Pumpkin. We can discard Pumpkin to set a Call of the Haunted and use it, but we're not going to summon back the Pumpkin quite yet. We're going to get the Unizombie. And that's because we're going to send Goblin Zombie to the grave again for the third time by going into Vampire Sucker. That's going to let us search a Mizuki. Then we can use the Unizombie on field, pitch the Mizuki, to summon, like, it just increases its level, that's not going to matter here. But then we can use the Mizuki to summon back the Pumpkin. So the whole thing just got us an extra body here. That's going to trigger Vampire Sucker to draw a free card, and the Pumpkin to summon out Changshi. We can use Changshi to send our third and final Mizuki from deck to grave, which can be used to bring back Goblin Zombie. Then we can link it off with our Link 2 into the Link 3 Yuki, which is going to trigger to go get a Stare of the Snake Hair. Then we can use the Stare of the Snake Hair to go get Call of the Forgotten, link up into the Yuki 4, and then overlay into our extra deck Pumpkin. Because we already have the field spell, we don't need to get it. So that means that our extra deck Pumpkin can actually just search as Vortex of Time here. Like, this combo is better than the base Pumpkin combo for the Pumpkin side of things, if that makes sense, which is pretty cool. And then we can just, like, bounce our Call of the Haunted so that we can get the extra one back, rank up into Legion, set 5, pass the turn. On end oh right, I forgot. Also, Grand Entrance, we can banish it to get a Goblin from grave back to hand. I get Doug here. Keep in mind that this Goblin Zombie was a random draw, so it's not always going to be a Goblin Zombie, and you'll probably want follow-up. You can grab the Goblin Zombie, whatever works. And then on end phase, the Abawaku comes back. So this is our big, crazy, fancy end board. We're going to go through the opponent's turn so that I can show you, like, what this is actually doing, because it's really funny. By the way, we used the Goblin Zombie 4 times in one turn, if you weren't keeping track. So the opponent goes to summon anything. First thing we're going to do is I will Call of the Haunted, bring back Stare of the Snake Hair. Keep in mind, this is going to trigger to turn off a monster. That's also going to trigger both Yuki-Onna to negate and make something's attack 0, and Call of the Forgotten to send something to the grave. So that's 3 disruptions off of activating your first Call of the Haunted. We can also at any point use the Undying Legion to suck a monster, and then we can use a Bawaku either to destroy just by discarding a random card, or summon something back. We can use another Call of the Haunted here to bring back that Dark Knight Lancer. You thought he was gone forever, didn't you? The Yuki-Onna, or the Abawaku is going to summon out the Pumpkin. Pumpkin is going to trigger after all of this resolves. The Yuki-Onna will trigger again because we summon something else from grave, so that's another permanent negate. The Pumpkin will trigger to summon out a level 6 from the deck, and then we can use Full Armored Exes to turn 2 of our 6s into another Pumpkin, who is going to trigger in a new chain to go search follow-up. Then we can just use this last Call of the Haunted for whatever. What was I targeting? Like Unizombie here. But either way, oh right, and we also had freaking Yuki-Onna to bring back Felgrand. I chain block there so we don't actually get the summon off the Call of the Haunted, which is pretty funny. And then the Pumpkin can search us follow-up. I grab Ectoplasmic Fortification here because we've used all 3 Call of the Haunted, so that lets us draw 3 cards, make everything big, and we can banish the Full Armored Exes to equip our Exes Armored Fortress to our Dark Knight Lancer for that extra suck. It makes him huge, it protects him from defense, he does piercing, all this good stuff. So that's just like what we're doing, and we didn't even have a chance to use the Vortex of Time. It's pretty crazy off of 1 card, right? And we're back with closing thoughts on our Goblin Zombies deck. So, pros, it puts up a million disruptions. It is a fun way to play the generic zombie support that is really good at what it does, but is like a little bit clunky, and so has never, or at least not recently, had a home. this is like a pretty solid home for it. And unfortunately, you might be thinking, well, what if we just do the Pumpkin thing specifically? The problem with the Pumpkin thing specifically, if you want to play the pure Pumpkin deck, you can get away with a very small engine of, maybe 20 cards, and you can throw some zombie stuff in there. But at the end of the day, you get one Foolish Burial out of this combo. And so the best you can hope to do is like set up Zombie World, which takes away the Call of the Forgotten, so you don't have that extra disruption and the ability to bounce it for like to reuse it. And like zombies just can't really do a full combo off of one Foolish Burial. So that deck feels like the Pumpkin deck and not a zombie deck, if that makes sense. Whereas this deck feels a lot more like a zombie deck. Really, it feels like a goblin deck that halfway through the combo turns into old school high roller zombies, but with an actual one card combo. And I think that's neat. I enjoy that very much. The cons, of course, being that your only non-engine is 9 copies of MST. If you don't see one of those, then your Typhoons kind of suck going second. There's a lot of bricks, like, why are we playing 3 Call of the Haunteds in 2026 Yu-Gi-Oh? Who knows? I don't. But, like, it's fun, it's fine, it can go second pretty well just because all of these engines break boards quite well in engine. The worst at it is Pumpkin, and Pumpkin's still just like summon Snakehair, nuke one of their guys. Maybe you open Vortex of Time. Maybe there's a game where I open Vortex of Time and it wins it for me. There's like stuff they can do, but then goblins are just like, I'm gonna suck your guy, I'm gonna a bow destroy your thing. As part of my linking up, I've got Unicorn, I've got Little Knight, I can take your stuff off Fascinate. Like, there is just a lot of in-engine play going second, and I do love a deck that has that, even if this isn't good by modern standards. But anyways, that's gonna do it for this one, guys. I hope you liked it, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.